Dark Souls 1 can be a punishing game for many. Its gameplay is designed to frustrate players who refuse to adapt, among other features that reward clever thinking and quick reflexes. However, there are many mistakes you can make beyond being incompetent at the game. They can go from how you tread with some NPCs, for instance, killing Andre, in this case you might as well restart from scratch, or the very mechanics Dark Souls 1 relies on, such as consuming a Firekeeper's soul for a quick heal in 5 humanity instead of using it to upgrade your flask. For this video, I've selected 5 of what I think are the worst decisions you can make in Dark Souls 1. There are tons of them, so if that one you're thinking about didn't make the cut, let me know in the comments. Let's go! For number 5, I got making your weapon a crystal weapon.
I had shiny. I make weapons shiny.
As with many of the mistakes I'll mention in this video, this happened to me in my first playthrough. While peeping at the giant blacksmith's stock, you might come across the crystal path for a weapon, and seemingly it has no downside. For those of you who know me, I'm a Dex weeb. So I went straight to my inventory, grabbed my Uchi, and slapped that crystal upgrade onto it. And just like that, my favorite weapon was doomed. Crystal weapons can be repaired. There is no way to restore their progressive wearing out, unless you upgrade it further, which is a huge waste of resources and only gives a few more minutes of usage to your weapon. Not only the crystal path requires you to upgrade your base weapon all the way to plus 10, consuming 9 normal and 9 large titanite shards, but to get it to plus 4 crystal you need 7 titanite chunks, which isn't that easy to stumble upon, and finally 1 slab to get it to plus 5. To put you into perspective, there are only 2 guaranteed slabs in the entirety of a new game, counting base game and DLC. There is a third one, but it's highly missable since it requires you to complete Sigmayr's quest, which for me is the hardest quest to complete naturally in all Dark Souls trilogy. You can also farm some lizards in the Great Hollow, but I dread anything remotely related to farming in any game, and no different from other Dark Souls, you need a serpent ring, some humanity, and any type of specific equipment that boosts your discovery. It's a chore. Why would you waste a slab on a weapon that will sooner rather than later be turned into dust? I haven't a clue. It's worthless and the damage buff isn't even that much. It's not like your character becomes broken strong. Instead, becoming broken is actually the fate of your weapon if you ever do this to it. For number 4, I'll say using the Master Key in your first playthrough. The Master Key is an item that comes with the Thief class, or you can choose it as your starting gift with any other class. I definitely recommend new players to use it in a playthrough, except for their first. Dark Souls 1 is a non-linear game. Even during its cursed second half, with all its shortcomings, you can choose to go whatever you want after Ornstein and Smoke. Be it the Archives, the Catacombs, Izalith, or New Londo. The first half, however, takes that freedom and injects a massive needle of steroids into it. It's without a doubt that the world prior to Anor Londo was carefully crafted to fit any progress order, and that's why it receives so much praise. All this connectivity is chef's kiss, and that's why I don't recommend taking the key. If you open that door that connects Firelink with Blighttown, you can go straight to Quelaag and skip a lot of legendary stuff the game has to offer. Imagine playing through the first half without getting shanked in London's West End. Or fighting the GOAT, actually not an abbreviation for greatest of all time. In a 2-foot wide alley, housing 2 of the most demonic creatures in this game. The Depths, with all its charismatic poop, basilisks, rats, traps, and the mythical Breaking Bad color filter. The entirety of Blighttown. All of these areas could be accidentally skipped, and that is a huge shame. Imagine hanging out with your friends, cold beer in your hand and talking about their best newbie moments in Dark Souls 1, saying how they got screwed over by that channeler who buffs the Gaping Dragon, and you interrupt them to say, actually, I skipped that entire part. I wouldn't befriend such an absolute pussy if you ask me. Plus you can get into a lot of trouble too soon because of that.
Look at all this damage!
A new player who has picked the Thief class or the Master Key as their gift, but haven't got a clue of what it does is a dangerous thing. Imagine opening the door to the Valley of the Drakes, or the shortcut to Darkroot Basin and thinking this is natural progression. The fatties right before Blighttown will destroy you. Blighttown as the started area is a really bad idea. You have no business going to the basin so soon. All these areas opened from the get-go with enemies that are a little too tough for the player can cause frustration and eventually the uninstall of the game. Dark Souls 1 Let Me Solo Her is struggling to fight Bed of Chaos. If you don't want him to suffer like you did, subscribe to the channel to give him a boost so he can live up to his name. But yeah, for subsequent runs, speedruns, hitless, deathless, whatever type of shenanigan you're trying to pull off, the Master Key is the GOAT, and there's no debate. There's only a handful of things worse than waking up extremely early, going to college, and after 1 hour of commuting, you read a mail saying the class has been cancelled. And one of those things is going for tail weapons in DS1. I have no clue why they made the difficulty fluctuate so much depending on the enemy you're facing. Have you ever wondered how Dark Souls 1 would feel with difficulty sliders? The Everlasting Dragon is the perfect example. Go annihilate his tail and he'll say,
Thank you, that shit was heavy as fuck.
With the Gaping Dragon, I think I have never beaten it without cutting off its tail. But then we have some other crap like Priscilla or Seath, who can turn this walk in a park into a Herculean task. Priscilla is more fragile than a wine glass made in China. Before the battle even starts, she's already bleeding out on the floor. I'm not even joking, this is the only boss in FromSoft history that I had to try not to kill too fast, because if I did, that completionist chivo of getting all the weapons will have to wait for another new game cycle. Seath is more of the same, but different, if that makes any sense. He's a pain in the ass just like Priscilla, but it's not like you have to apply nerfs to your character before the battle to go easy on him. It's more about praying to RNGesus to get the right moves that leave his tail exposed instead of clipping into the arena walls. Or that he doesn't spam the same tail smashing attack an infuriating amount of times, keeping you at bay playing the patience game. Can I go now? Oh, no, okay. And now? Wait, okay, time to go? More smashing time? Okay, see, yeah, keep doing you. Another thing that can happen is that Dark Souls 1, being almost 15 years old already, confuses AI, artificial intelligence, for AI, artificial incoordination, which will leave him paralyzed, rethinking whether it was worth it to betray his kin. It's at this moment you have to go for the... Oh, okay, understandable. Have a good day. Only achievement hunters or Moonlight Sword enjoyers have witnessed this controller disintegrating simulator, since it's completely optional, and that's why I'm leaving it at number 3. But yeah, if you ever want to have an unfun time, give this thing a go. Suddenly you'll begin to love doing tax work much more. The coveted silver medal will be taken by going to the Tomb of the Giants or Ash Lake without the Lord Vassal. I think most of us are guilty of this. If this has ever happened to you, and you didn't start a new run immediately, you've truly been blessed by the gods of patience and self-restraint. Before beating Kenan and Kel, also known as Drake and Josh, you can't fast travel anywhere. That's the fun about the first part, how an interconnected world had to come to life to compensate for the lack of fast traveling, which we have from the get-go nowadays. Some say it's the beauty and the charm the game had. Let me tell you something. These people have never been stuck in the Tomb of the Giants at level 40 just because they got fooled by Pinwheel into thinking that everything was going to be as easy as him. If you know the exact route, going from the Yellow Glow to Firelink Shrine takes around 8 to 9 minutes of pure sprinting and climbing. This is not a realistic time though, because you won't be in this mess if you know the exact routes to leave in the first place. So here's what's going to happen. You'll spend 1 hour running into giant skeleton poppies, sword and bow wielders who will block your path, drop you from the stairs, wandering around in what's probably the place that justifies the word dark in Dark Souls. Jesus Christ, I've seen clearer visuals staring at my TV while it's off. The lock-on becomes as useful as Torrent in Abyssal Woods, since your character can see shit, and after falling to your death a dubious amount of times, your exhaustion will take over, and you'll do the most sensible thing, go to YouTube and watch one of the videos on the matter, just like other 300,000 people did, just to enter the paying wheel hallway that you have to cross and get killed by these rolling fuckers right when you're close to the Vamos bonfire, and getting sent all the way back to the Patches bonfire. It's disgusting. In regards to Ash Lake, it isn't as complicated to navigate through as Tomb of the Giants, but the walk back to get yourself on track? Whew. If you're here, you've probably beaten Quelaag and rung the bells, which means the next stop is Sin's Fortress. Here's what you're going to do. Just like in Tomb of the Giants, it takes around 8 minutes of pure sprinting and climbing if you go from the Everlasting Dragon until the entrance of the Great Hollow. That is, if you don't die due to gravity or the basilisks cursing you in the process. Subsequent tries will feel shorter because I imagine big-brained individuals will rest at the bonfire closer to the tree instead of keep spawning close to the dragon. When you're out, do the climb to Firelink Shrine, ride the lift, hope you opened the shortcut, otherwise you're for an even greater time, and finally reach the fortress. This sucks a lot. Fortunately, it isn't as common as getting lost in Tomb of the Giants, because the Great Hollow is much harder to find. Here are some honorable mentions before we get to the first spot. For the first one, I have Playing Offline. Dark Souls 1 is probably the most packed game with online content from FromSoft. Through these, the environmental storytelling and the sense of community expand beyond measure. We got petrified statues that appear in places where players can be cursed, next to basilisks or seath, representing players from other worlds who got their snake solid. You can hear the bells ring if other players defeat Quelaag or the gargoyles and pull the lever in their own world, representing someone's triumph and a sort of motivation for you to do the same. Finally, if a player rests near you, your Estus count will increase by 1. I find these very cool, and it proves online is not only about reading nodes, being invaded, and summoning people. It's much more complex than that. For the second honorable mention, I have not managing your environment. Treating every environment the same way is a huge mistake in Dark Souls 1, especially in initial areas where your character still struggles to kill a couple of rats. The Chosen Undead has to try to fight his battles in favorable terrain. That mainly means bringing the fight to open areas rather than picking fights in narrow hallways and staircases. Dark Souls 1 weapons are infamous for saying,
"Let me bounce off this wall real quick, boss."
And for the final honorable mention, I have completing Sigmaier's quest all the way to the point where you have to help him kill the Chaos Eaters, but failing to do so. For Sigmaier, the best outcome to his quest is to go down, finish them off, all without talking to him, and then talking to him. At this point, the quest will finish. Sigmaier will feel disappointed because he couldn't return you the favors you've done to him, but at least he'll be alive. However, for us, the greedy players, the quest is completed when we find his daughter, mourning him at Ash Lake, who will reward us with a slab. So, the biggest mistake here is failing to do both of these, keeping him alive and getting the slab. And that is the third outcome to his quest. If you two charge at the Chaos Eaters, but you sit around twiddling your thumbs while he does the heavy lifting, and he ends the fight with less than 50% HP, sadly our layered friend will pass away right then and there. A noble yet unnecessary sacrifice, since that area is completely useless beyond quest purposes. And the long-waited, dredge-inducing, nightmare-provoking, it really is that bad, worst mistake you can ever make in this game is failing to help Solaire. Miyazaki is a very resourceful person for world building, lore creation, and bringing characters to life. For these reasons, I love doing quests in their games because they reveal bonds among characters, give us an insight of how NPCs influence the story, and of course, cool rewards, be it their armor, weapons, spells, and so on. However, notice how I haven't mentioned the conclusion of these quests as a motivation to do them. I'm sorry to say this, but if you're going through a quest for the first time in any game of theirs, just know that that character is very likely to fucking die a miserable death. At least there's variation to them. We got Pig Meal, went past the expiry date, collapses and fades away after killing his best friend, death by cameo, death by not having a goal anymore, death by crow, death by heroism, death by betrayal, death by trying to become the strongest in the universe, death by bowl cut or hollowing, death by climax. Literally nothing happens to this wanker. And I'm just mentioning the ones where the NPC passes away even if you do the correct steps of the quest. So for once, The moment we get the chance to help a friend and actually save their skin and even summon them for the final boss, I think it's a no-brainer. We have to help him, especially this guy. I mean, isn't him basically the best companion ever? In the face of the Dark Souls trilogy, owner of the best emote out there? It's a shame that saving him is so convoluted. There is not a single word or event in this game hinting at the fact that if you donate 30 humanity to Quilana, you can open this door in Lost Izalith and get rid of this evil grasshopper who, if left alive, will make Solera go insane. It's so depressing. Do yourself a favor. Avoid the emotional scars you get by shoving a blade in his belly, and help him link the flame in his own world by summoning him to fight Gwyn. And here we are! Those are my worst decisions for Dark Souls 1. Were any of those in your mind before you started the video? Leave a comment if you would like to add a new one to the list. In my next video, I'll be analyzing the differences between today's patch of Sekiro and its 1.0 aka factory version. I've already played through it, and trust me, there are a handful. So if you're interested in that type of content or original Souls content, subscribe to the channel. Be seeing you, comrades. Bye!